Welcome to another interview presented by Alabama Wrestling Forums. I'm Jackson Bast here with River Rats head coach, Coach Jason Eldridge. How are you doing today, Coach?
Pretty good. Thanks, Jackson. I just got in from mowing the lawn and working outside, so I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. So let me start out by asking you, what got you into wrestling?
What got me into wrestling? I guess family, really. Just like most wrestlers, it starts out with your grandfather, your father, your brother, maybe your sister. My dad was really big into it, and my brother was a phenomenal wrestler, and I wanted to be better than him, so that's what got me involved.
So kind of tell us a little bit about what kind of directly got you into wrestling, into how you did going into high school, and then the so forth and so on. A little bit of background.
Yeah. So I started wrestling in third grade. Started with a Pee Wee program. Our Pee Wee coach was pretty much our high school coach, right? So all off season, um, youth and freestyle was all done by the same coaches. I'm from upstate New York, so it was kind of nice. I kind of took a little bit into it. I started youth for 2 years, took a break until we got to modified season. That's when I really got into it, started enjoying it a little bit more. Um, I really didn't get good until probably like 10th grade once I started freestyle. Once for some reason, once I started freestyle, it seemed like everything kind of clicked. Um, I started understanding the moves. I started understanding like the mat awareness and what I was actually doing right. Um, my wrestling career ended in after high school. September 11th happened, and I decided my next route was going to be the military, so that way we can I could take care of things that route. Um, I still had that desire to wrestle. So when I wasn't deployed, I was at base. We were at tournaments. We had a club team. We would travel base to base, wrestle at different tournaments, and then I just kind of figured it was time to hang up the shoes and go the coaching route. I started coaching Pee Wee youth wrestling in Idaho, and man, it like excelled my love for wrestling, like helping the little kids and like getting them involved in the sport and starting from scratch. It was unbelievable. There, to have a kid walk off and say that he's coming back to one of the toughest sports out there, it's a pretty great feeling. Um, then let's see, after Idaho, kind of bounced around a little bit, moved back to New York, and I stopped coaching, kind of actually drifted away from wrestling because I started focusing on my kids. I have three girls, two out of three of them wrestle, and my oldest daughter is what brought me back into the sport, like brought that love and passion back. And I was one of those boys that didn't care for girls wrestling when I was growing up. Like seeing a girl out on a mat it was it was like an alien, right? It was a whole new experience, and which is kind of crazy because New York, we had two girls that were actually phenomenal when I was growing up. There was one girl that like all the boys feared to wrestle, but it was still weird to see out there. Um, and something switched watching my daughter wrestle for the first time. It was like, I don't know. It's a whole new world. Watching the girls go out there and compete against the boys is phenomenal. I couldn't imagine the heart it takes as a young lady to get on a mat and go out there and wrestle when you know you're kind of the underdog and put everything into it. But now, I mean, by the grace of God, like we went to New York. I was doing a girls travel team with Naiway Wrestling, and I was one of the directors with that. And I just happened to decide that we drove through Alabama coming back from Mississippi, and I was like, man, I love this spot. Like something called for me. I tell everybody it was God because there's no other thing about it. Like once you hear that voice inside saying you need to be here, I quit my job. I moved down here, established myself, and then brought my family down. And 3 locations I was looking at: Pike Road, Wetumpka, and Prattville. I fell in love with Wetumpka, bought a house, brought my family down, and I was talking to all the coaching staffs. I'm like, hey, I want to get involved in wrestling. And they're like, yeah, here's club address. Stop down, get your girls over here. It was right across the road. So it was literally meant to be. Like, who moves into a house? Oh, scratch it. Who quits a job, moves to a new state, changes a life for you, your family, buys a house, gets involved in wrestling, and it's right across the road. And the very next year, they're looking for a new coach. So it was like, if there wasn't word from God, if you need a different example of God involved in wrestling, then I don't know what to give you, because he definitely guided me the right route. But now it's full blown. I'm down at the club 4 days a week. I'm running 2 days youth and 2-day varsity, and I love it, man. Like, it's awesome. I literally can walk to practice and not burn a sweat. So it's great.
So obviously, you mentioned you had your 2 daughters who are currently in the sport. Or I know I've asked a lot of coaches, and I haven't asked the coach because I haven't met a coach whose daughter wrestled. Is it a lot different than, I know you call most of your kids your boys, so is it a little different coaching your daughters versus some of the guys out there?
Yes. The girls surprisingly hide their feelings a whole lot more coming off the mat, right? They want 10-15 seconds to decompress. They don't want to be bothered, and then they'll come talk to you. Where the boys, they want to throw their headgear. We kind of have a tantrum. You could see the emotions on our face when we lose. The girls, you can see the emotion, but it's not as effective or not as explosive. And did you go to the girls' state tournament last year?
Sadly, no. I go to Bluefield College in Virginia, so I was wrestling up there during that time.
Um, there's so much excitement involved in, like, the girls wrestling, the dual tournaments we go to, everything that we do, like, on the girls' side of the house. It's like they want to have fun with it, right? Where you walk into a boys tournament and you can cut the tension with a knife. It's like serious, like everybody is there, and it's we're straight to the mat. We're gonna go out there and destroy. Where you see the girls are out there socializing, they're getting to know people, and it's a different kind of vibe. I enjoy it. I enjoy both of them. And the boy wrestling, we're there to get business done. I don't really have to chase them around and find out what cliques they're hanging out with. They're with their team, they're doing their thing. Where the girls, I have to chase them all around the ring. So it's definitely different.
So I have to ask, because you mentioned you went through Mississippi and you hit Alabama and you figured, did you go through like the Montgomery area, or did you figure out later you were some part of a different part of the state? Or
Actually, I drove up where we drove from the Gulf all the way up through. So what's that main highway up there that you go from the Gulf all the way up to Birmingham? So
65?
we drove through Montgomery, but it was right around like the Wetumpka area in Prattville, where I was like, this, it's beautiful down here. It reminds me a lot of New York, except there's no snow. Well, there's there's a little snow, but it's not like it's up there.
So is there like a different kind of was there a culture shock when you came from New York to Alabama in wrestling and in general?
Not in general, no. I've really been every place in the United States, like traveling for military. So it was, in general, no. Wrestling, it's like we're catching up, but we're catching up at like a high rated speed. I mean, it was the Southern Alabama's just had wrestling for what, 6-7 years. To me, that blows my mind. Like, wrestling's huge in New York, where Alabama, it's kind of like you have the kids that train all year, but it's kind of looked at like a second sport. You go out there You compete and then you travel for soccer or softball or baseball. Where up in New York, our clubs are loaded after season. Freestyle is a big deal. Freestyle and Greco.
I think it's crazy, especially since it's always beautiful down here. So I know that when you go up north, it's all snow and so just so devastatingly cold that you don't want to
Right.
be outside. You're not training outside during the winter, because if you do, you might die. Like it's that cold. So that's pretty crazy.
Yep.
So, Coach, the main reason I had you on today is what's coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, man. So we have Dakota Greer coming in. He's down here with family, and he reached out to some of the local clubs and asked if he'd come down and run a camp. We have a 2-day camp, Thursday and Friday, from 12:30 to 3 p.m. 2 sessions, $35 each. And he asked a couple things that I would want him to go over, and I told him to keep it open to do what he knows best and what works. I don't feel like limiting a college wrestler. I want him to come in and show our kids what he wants to do, right? I mean, no one wants to hear the version 2.0 of Coach Jason and telling them what to do. They want to learn the cool new things out there.
What would you kind of describe your coaching style like?
Very fundamental. So, my wrestling background is to high school, right? I've been to other college coaches, tournaments. I've done things to excel, but I stick to the fundamentals. I'm more of a in close kind of beat on your head and wear you down, and then beat you. I want to match my footwork the same as Northern Alabama. I want Central Alabama to have great takedowns and then come right back to their feet and take you down again. But that doesn't mean our top game isn't going to be a monster either. So I want Central Alabama footwork right about the same as where Warrior and Ironclad are.
So you obviously mentioned you were in the military. Do you take a lot of some of the stuff you learned while in there kind of into your coaching now?
We'll say the fitness part for sure. The fitness, so I incorporate a lot of the stuff that I learned in there, from being a knucklehead and from what we do to better ourselves. But also, like, in the military, they teach you how to be a great leader, right? You may be the best wrestler out there, but if you don't know how to be a leader or a coach, then what are you doing? It's like in the NFL. How many great NFL players do you know that are great coaches? Barely any, right? Can you think of any right now?
Oh,
Exactly. So, a good coach isn't always a great wrestler. You gotta be a good leader and a good mentor of these kids. So wrestling wise, heavy on the hands, heavy on the footwork, and coaching wise, of just being a good person and overall good leader.
well, Coach, before I let you go, is there anything you want to say to my viewers?
Hey guys, I appreciate the time coming in, giving me the chance to talk and introduce myself. Stop down to the River Rats Wrestling Club. We'd love to see you guys in there. Drop in, bust some skulls, and see what you're about. See you Thursday and Friday at the Dakota Greer Wrestling Camp. Again, 12:30 to 3 p.m. $35 per wrestler. No cap. Jackson, I appreciate everything you're doing, man.
I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Coach, for doing this. And thank you all you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay cool out there in wrestling.